Good morning, it's Brian Whitten and ET Art. We are looking at a rock once again. That's what ET Art will be doing. It will be manufacturing or images or removing images off these rocks. The reason I bought this one in and wanted to start today is we have discussed this black mark, and there's another one up the top there, although you can't see it. There were two black marks that I have realised why they were there. They weren't there originally. I'll show you another picture. Okay, I've got this image up now. This was one black dot and two black dots which were lined up like that, so that the image, this one here with that guy and everything else that comes that way, just like it did with the sacrificial rock with an arrow, this has two dots and the image is to the left. These two black dots here weren't on this rock originally. They're not dust. They were put on for the history lesson that it would appear the leaders of this country tried to give me over the weekend. And if you go and watch the video that I put up on Saturday morning, you will find that the person putting that video up, being me, is very calm and collected. I'm used to dealing with scumbags, so they don't really bother me that much. And when tricky manoeuvres and deceitful people, I'll tell you who the deceitful people are here. It's our federal government. But we'll move on. I don't want to get too politically involved. I'll show you another image of the same rock. I have the image up again here, and we can see once again. There's a black dot there, a black dot there. They were lined up to get this image. They were not on this rock originally. I'll show you. Okay, we've just got this image up now, which is the same rock and the very same location on the rock. As you can see, it still has the Australian or Great Australian Bight here, but our man's missing. This is missing. There's no black spot here, and if I move the image down, there is no black spot at the bottom portion either. So this was taken in November 19th at Patonga when I went away. Okay, and like I said, the irony in Patonga, when all this come to light, its location and latitude on the planet's surface is 33, 33, 33. That is what it says on the wharf. It's not me doing that, it's reality. It's 666. And the 666 boys are the ones that were messing with me when I originally tried to report the corruption to the then federal Liberal government run by John Howard. I'll move on. Now I've brought our original image up now, and we now have two black dots. This is not dust. That was put on there for me. The 3rd of the 3rd that was taken. How ironic. The 3rd of the 3rd month, the 3rd day of the 3rd month of this year, that is what was on this rock. Two black marks. That is what I was using to line up the imagery there, as I've already mentioned. Those black marks were put on this rock, and they disappeared this weekend because of your history lesson, gentlemen. Okay, I've just brought up a property sheet of that picture I just showed you that I said the first time the black dots arrived was on the 3rd of the 3rd. I'm not having it on, it is the 3rd of the 3rd. Okay, I have that photo of that rock up. I took this morning. Okay, you can see there's no black marks. Nibiru is gone, the little man standing down here is gone, and so on and so on. I'll right click, put my magnifier on, and I'll show you the property sheet. And there we go. Okay, you can see the property of that photo. I took it this morning. It's the 14th of March. The 14th of the 3rd, 11 days later. Those black marks, like I said, were put there for me. They were there to make sure I understood my son's soul, even when you tried to deceive me so. You are the most deceitful bunch of people, and you're about to meet your end. What you are looking at here is the Eye of Horus. It is no more the Eye of Horus than it is the Eye of Boris, Lewis, or any other us. This is an indication of planetary motion that when you have a straight axis on the planet, which is what this is representing. When you have a straight axis on the planet, no matter what angle a comet hits the planet, it does not go up. It is shielded by the fact it is in line in a plane with the sun. And that is exactly what that means. I'm going to show you one other thing in the cross section of the pyramid. Well, I brought you back to the cross section. This is where we worked out the timing and distances. This was a speed of 4,000 or just a bit over 4,000. This one here is about 7,000 kilometres an hour that it moves the body of the Earth. So either of them. I would imagine this one is extremely critical and fast. So in other words, if you have a bent axis, which is why they did this first. They had to do that first because they couldn't have done that. That's why it was done this way. This one here was bent or hit and controlled to tilt the axis so that in actual fact they could actually begin the process up and down. Okay? That's the situation here. They've left the planet with a tilted axis in this state here. Right? We are still in a tilted axis, and they know full well it is in a tilted axis. When it comes back to the Serapeum, I'll show you that. I've got that Serapeum image up now. This is the predicted event. Okay, this is the one here built into the pyramid by the pyramid builders to tell us that when that happens, because we have a tilt on the axis, which we have, we're not back straight to the axis until we're back here. We've still got a tilt on the axis of 15 degrees or thereabouts. When this comet hits, it goes bang, straight up, down like that, around the sun, takes up the plane that it was on, and when it comes that, it looks a lot like Mars. There will be not one bit of life on the planet, and not one shred of water, unless it's, well, not one drop of water, unless it's underground, because that is what's going to happen right there. And you know why they've done that? They've done it extremely deliberately. They have tilted our planet and left it in this state, knowing full well that's going to happen. This is another image of what we'll call it the Eye of Horus, just for the sake of the argument. This one though has been built by the people, or at least made and manufactured by the people that built the pyramid. What we're seeing here is the same thing. A straight axis of the globe does not allow the planet to get ejected above, up and over the top of the sun. And this, when we have a straight axis, the only way a comet can hurt our planet or move water around from A to B is through the T2 type event. The T1 type event. When you have a straight axis like that, all it can do is tilt your axis. Okay, that's what it's saying. This one says that what happens if it gets hit, it goes up, over, and takes back the plane. That's why the arrows are here, to tell you it takes up the same plane. I'm going to zoom in to the bottom part here and show you this. These marks here are very, very, very important. They are telling you what angle the axis needs to be at. You've got about a 5-degree axis there. That's why those marks are there. They're telling you it doesn't have to be dead zero, but it has to be pretty bloody close to it. And if you get your axis at a movement of about 5 degrees, that you will not be chucked up over the top of the sun in the event that a comet hits anywhere in these angles that are produced by the placement of the squares down here. There's a few other things that I've seen that do exactly the same. Now when you're looking at the squares along the bottom, we're going like this, you know, and vice versa that way. It's telling you the angles of the comets that need to hit to tilt the axis. Anything beyond here, beyond these angles, I'm sure, do not tilt the axis even, okay? That is why they dropped the comets in the way they did. You really need to go back, you planetary scientists, physicists, and not geologists. You people really need to look at what I'm portraying here, okay, because that's exactly what goes down. I'll move on. In understanding what the Eye of Horus meant, in understanding T1 and T2 and how they did that to the planet many years ago, and these things are easily visible on Google Earth. You can see all these comet impacts to which I refer, 4 above Australia, 1 between South America and Antarctica, and 1 in Central America, and the other one has created the Mediterranean. These events of previous histories of our planet, I believe, are portrayed here, okay, and the involvement of the people that made the rocks on our planet are displayed here. This is more than just 4 comets. They have ways of doing things where they mean more than one thing. Notice how that one goes that way, that one goes that way, and that one goes that way. What we're seeing here is a depiction of their involvement and destruction of 2 previous advanced races. That is why on the rocks they are shown as cities. And you see the little sparkling lights as I've showed you. When we move around with the light, we create a tidal wave. At our lowest light is where our vision and our imagery is at its best. At low light levels. Because they want you to see the twinkling lights below the waves when they come in. That's why that happens. It's because they are saying, twice before we have come here, and twice we have totally smashed this planet to the point that I just told you before, and we looked at the methods of pole shift doing the following 2 things. And we remember that this is the T2 event where the comet hits the bottom of the planet like this, accelerates it at a speed of 7,000 kilometres an hour and peels back the oceans off the Earth. That is the T2 event which we are now faced with. This T2 event that took place 12,000 years ago did not take the water off the planet as displayed here, because another comet went bang like that 5 minutes later in exactly the right place to stop it happening. And it drove the planet back this way 100 kilometres, so back towards the water that it had pushed away. It had driven it back this way 100 k's, which is why the water was still around the planet. And you can imagine the size of the waves that are generated in that. Not that they're a whole lot less than the other method, to be honest. The T1 event, which is displayed, once again I'll show you. This is the T1 event, and the T1 event is displayed in the pyramid cross section. Happens with the Earth being moved at about 4th, or at least the line of longitude, the end here being, or the tip line is longitude at about 4,000 kilometres an hour or thereabouts. And what happens is when it rotates like that really quickly, the water gathers at the place of the planet where it's rotating from, just like it does a wet tennis ball. When you spin it along the ground or something like that, the water spins off the part that rotates the fastest. This is a T2 type event. This is the one that is portrayed as being in the pyramid. It's happening in about 3,000 years. We have still got an axis of about 15 degrees, and it will be driven over the sun and kill everything on the planet. I'll put that rock back up now. This is the image which is of the rock before it finished its manufacture date. I don't know how they do that. They are very, very smart. They just do what they want, these people. But they're that. They're not gods. They are portrayed sitting down with humans. You don't sit down with a human if you perceive yourself to be a god. So they certainly don't tell us they're gods. They're giving us many, many, many warnings, many, many chances, but they do not take inaction as an answer, nor feeble, what did George Pell get? 5 years, 6 years. which will end up being 18 months in good behaviour. They'll probably ship a few little boys in there to the prison he's in to make him happy whilst he's there. That will not be a satisfactory punishment there, and you will meet their wrath, I can assure you. We have one splash and a dot where we used to have 4 and 2 dots. What they're doing there is telling us that they've been back twice before. They have totally eradicated 2 advanced civilizations. We're this one, and we're on our own. And you know that by the fact that they tilted the globe, left it tilted with a pending knowledge of the planet's destruction. And that, going that way when the other 2 are going that way, saying, we aren't helping this time. I want you to notice, if you will, we haven't just lost the 2 strokes that went this way. What we've got is a missing dot here as well, because there was another dot there. And what you've actually got now is a situation where we've got to understand what the dots mean. To understand what the dots mean, you've got to understand Nibiru and how it circles around Jupiter or Saturn. I'm saying Jupiter still to this point because it would appear to me that's where it goes. It's really hard to get a good image off a rock, but that's pretty much what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Saturn in the distance most of the times, although sometimes it really looks like there's actually an image on this image right we're looking at right now, down about, I'm going to say an inch or so. It's not an inch or so, it's not a few millimetres down from this. There is in actual fact an image of Saturn and Jupiter, but you've got to get the light right. I'm not going to worry about that at this point. I'm going to tell you what these dots are. They're clean-up jobs. And when I say clean-up jobs, that's where they come back in the midst of a Nibiru long cycle. I know the Nibiru long cycle is, well, it's pretty much approaching almost 6,000 years. So we get a 3,600 year cycle, or a 2,000 year cycle by the look of it to me, and a 6,000 year cycle through Nibiru. They come back and do this clean-up here, as depicted by the dots being removed. They do that in the midst of, like I said, in Nibiru's long cycle to make sure that there are situations where the people that are on here get to live in some sort of normality again. And what they do is come and clean them up. I'm sorry about that mower next door, that's why I'm talking a little louder. But I've got to get the video up, so you know, I'm just going to push on. So that's what's going on. I'll just close that window, it might make it a bit better. Excuse me. Bloody mower. Is that better? Now we can hear ourselves talk, hear ourselves think. Okay, so that's what's going down here. They're telling us, and you know I'm right, because they've tilted the globe and left it that way, knowing full well something was going to kill us all. They've said, we've had enough. We're not coming back anymore. That's why this stroke goes that way and the other 2 that way. You're on your own. We're going to come back, clean up. This one here, this clean up here will probably happen halfway between now and the event. So they'll clean up today, or I'm thinking probably in the next day or 2. I have a son that was born on the 16th of March. Mr. Howard, you know him. He sat opposite you in the Masonic Lodge. I haven't heard from him since middle of December. I fear he is dead. I hope not. I hope he's alive. But I would suspect that that's the case. Okay? This clean-up job here is going to happen pretty bloody soon. Like I said, I look at history. I look at things that we're warned of. There was a warning many, many years ago. It was an English author. Beware the Ides of March, which is tomorrow. And my son's birthday is the day after. I don't think you've got a lot of time left. This image I've got here is one I've taken off a rock that I had to hold my light source from a very specific angle, which was lower on that rock. Actually no, this was a high image with the light coming from a top. And I have inserted this in one of my videos, so I've just put it on the screen here so you can have a look and we can have a talk about it, see what we're actually talking about, because what any planetary scientist or any geologist or anybody else are going to say with all of these things that I put in all these videos is, Brian, it's impossible for 12,000 years ago for this sort of event to happen and for us all to be here. The ability of these people to do whatever they want, God willing, is exactly that. They are very, 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 very advanced race of people. They were doing this 12,000 years ago here, you know, and admittedly they're from our, our future. They might be from our past, who knows, I have no idea. But they are a hell of a lot of, their skills are just like, I'm not kidding. If we were going to go to war with these people, it would make our armies, all of them, down here look like a bunch of angry Boy Scouts with a packet of marbles, because that's the reality here. These people are going to kill everybody if you don't do what they're told. And fair enough too, if it is that our leaders are going to think that the consumption and killing and raping of children is acceptable. It is not. What you're seeing here are motherships. You've got two lasers coming out of this one, carving the hell out of a bloody mountain here. That's what this thing's doing here. It's carving the mountains. How your rocks got into the rivers. It's not imaginary. It's real. The only place you see this is here, on a rock, at microscopic level? No. It's done by the very same people that did this one. This is another image carved into rock. I'll be honest with you, I do not know where this one is actually and where it's from. I just want you to be aware of what you're seeing here. You're seeing a UFO. Just do exactly as I showed you in the microscopic version. It's carving the bloody mountains out, and that's how they do it. That's how all our rocks on our rivers were created. They were picked up, put in the back of one of those things and modified and put back on the planet. That's why I've got that image on it. I'll just come back to the cross section of the pyramid because, like I said, we've looked at both the events of T1 and T2 and what it does to the water on the planet. This is the event we're faced with. We do not have enough time here to drop anything on the other side. Like if we could do that, if we could drop it at the right place on the planet to go bang and stop that happening, that is not going to happen with the behaviour still on the planet. That's why I showed you the back plane of my computer in the last video, is because you might be able to get some electronic device or some method to stop this happening, or even stop it in space before it hits here. If you've got what you've got on the planet, what we have now that is being unaddressed by our leaders and being protected by our leaders, nothing you've got is going to stop it in space, and nothing you've got is going to stop it on the ground. That is my point. They have left the planet in a way where the only way that we can survive is, number one, advance ourselves to the ability of being able to do, and we can't do this if we're going to get clean-up jobs every so many thousand years because of these pathetic fools we have on our planet. This event is going to end the planet and everything. They're going to come up and they're going to have a clean-up, and it's going to be very, very soon. I said to you when I worked out the timing here that knocking it back to 10 degrees was my theory as to why they knocked it back to 10 degrees was to give us a time. That was 40 minutes. And then I said, well, no, that event can't take 40 minutes. That's a stupid thing to think. 40-minute event to get a comet coming out of space and, separate the Antarctic continent from South America. That's not going to take 40 minutes. So then we assessed that 40 minutes was the whole event. I found somewhere else where the timing for those comets is written down. This is your timing device. It is called the Gate of the Sun. I believe it's in Peru, in Central America. Oh, we should say in Central South America. Lake Titicaca, maybe somewhere around that area I think it's from. This is in actual fact telling us the timing for the comets. This is representing the comet that started. This is representing the comet that finished. This crack here has been there since the day the pyramid builders built it. It is there to show you that this represents the comet that hit the south impact. This one is the Central American impact. This one depicts the first comet impact. This one depicts the Australian separation. Here, across the top, we have 16 squares by 3 down. Okay? 3 6 is 18, 48 minutes. That is the full event, and it's portrayed there in the time. That is what that thing's doing. I'll show you how it was found. Here we have another depiction of the gate of the sun, supposedly how it was found, which would also lend weight to the fact that this has always been broken, as I just stated, and that this is a southern one that caused the tilt of the globe, which is why that's bent out. It was made that way, just like the casing stones on the pyramid were made to represent the height of the water that swept across where the pyramids were. Nothing, the casing stones were never there in the first place and never ever have been. This is another image I wanted to show you because we have discussed the time now, 48 minutes, and see if we find it anywhere else. The reason why I actually stopped here was these symbols here. You know, because I can say when I look at that and say, okay, well, the straight axis, I'm only going to tilt the axis when I've got a straight axis. When I get a comet impact from underneath here, I don't read hieroglyphics, but like I said, maybe it's time I ought to. The reason why I want to do this, I'll zoom in just a little bit so you can see a couple of these marks a little bit easier here. These ones here, we're going to do a little bit of counting, some squares and do some subtractions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go down to the next one. What have we got there? So we've got 8 on one line. Lateral lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 and 7. 8 sevens, what are they? 56. How many have we got going down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Subtract 8 from 56. What do you get? 48 minutes. Another timing device, telling you how long the process took. Here is another relief, or carving, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's probably Sumerian, this, and I'm only hazarding a guess there. I want you to actually have a look at a few things. Right? I don't know how clearly you can see it. I might actually zoom in a little bit just to give you an indication of what you're seeing held up by each one. And remember, I've just gone and shown you a microscopic version of a situation where the mountain's being modified. Okay? Look at what you see. What are you actually seeing here? You're seeing these are UFOs. These people that are underneath are chipping away, cracking at the rock. Look, there's little bits of rock here. This is a depiction of exactly what I just showed you. Exactly what I just showed you. I'll go over to the other side of this relief and have a look at this side. This one here. What are you seeing under here? What are you seeing? Here is a representation of the planet. What are you seeing here? Stepping out of the axis from comet impacts. What you're seeing, it's over and over and over and over. And you know why? Because our leaders don't listen. They still don't listen. It is unbelievable. I'll show you a little more. Now I've just zoomed out a bit on that image. This is our man with the tilted axis here being shown above the earth. We have UFOs all over this thing. We've got people falling off here, left, right and centre. Okay. devastation, people's in the water drowning down here. Really quite an amazing thing. What I'm going to show you now is the reliefs that you see like this. I wonder sometimes, these, like I say, are supposed to be Sumerian, I'm under the belief. I wonder whether this is like when we talk about the glyphs in Gosford. The glyphs in Gosford have what it is that probably makes them disputable. The government would dispute anything like that. But in reality, the reason why they're disputed is whether they're actually original or not. That I believe that a couple of the glyphs are back to front. Probably done quite deliberately. Not necessarily to be wrong, but you've got to imagine that the people that are leaving them there are the people that put the big rock there. They lifted them up and put them there in the method displayed in the diagrams here and on my rock. Okay, that's exactly what they do. Come in with big motherships, and they've carved the mountains and carved the rivers. That's why so much of our world is covered by things that would appear to be facial features of people. This is another Sumerian, I call it motif, or one of their tablets. It's again exactly the same thing. It's a portrayal of exactly the same thing. The comet story, how many comets there were. I'm going to zoom in and I will move to this quadrant here. The beginning of the comet sequence was that there was one comet that got cut into two, that got cut into three, and that there was communications between those delivering the comets and the king and queen. We've gone through that. If you have a look at the end of the carry-on video, you'll see a motif there that tells exactly that story. We're seeing one big comet get cut into two, and I would imagine there's maybe something broken off here, and then three, okay? The third one landing in Australia, landing earlier than the other two, which is why it's lower down the ladder. Okay, that's what I believe is the case there. And on this side here, when you say, okay, now I've hit, the two comets have hit the ground, okay, and what happens after they hit the ground is then displayed on the other side. So they go back up the ladder again. Oops, I'll move this way. And we see, once again, the involvement of UFOs here. I've said that before. I said to you that on a rock version, I had the comet that hit here and bounced up off Antarctica, or South America, being sliced up in the air and that's exactly what this is. That's a UFO right there, and that's representative of the comets that hit Australia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One was there earlier, which is why this bloke's hanging off here. But he came down earlier. There are your comets that are being created. This is on the southern hemisphere, what happened down there. So there were 5, the one in Australia, and then the 4 that came down later. I move up from that corner over here. Right, so this is telling you what happened in space. So they've cut them all up like this. Over here on this side of the motif, we have exactly what happened, because what happened was that we had, actually I just realised that's actually a European comet. This is the equator here on this part of the motif. This is telling us what happened to the Australian continent. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 comets that created and separated the Australian continent, and there you had 1, 2, which is the ones that separated, or I should say created the Mediterranean. The 2 comets are created there, 4 comets there. The UFOs are in it because they created and diced the comet in the air to do what it did when it hit the ground. Here's another motif. It's exactly the same thing. This is depicting that the comets have deflected off, which is why they're like that. They're in the air, and one of them gets sliced into 4. This is over and over and over. Here's yet another. What are we seeing? Where were our comet impacts? The one that tilted the globe. North America, or sorry, Central America, Australia, Mediterranean. That's what that's representing. This is representing the comets that hit and where they hit on the Earth. Here's another. And you're thinking, yeah, right. What the hell has this got to do with comets? It's exactly the same thing. You've got no feet. Why have they got no feet? Because they're in the air. Why are they in the air? Because they're not representative of people. You had one comet cut into two, and then you had another little bit cut off that biggest one that landed in Australia first. It's in the story. What do you see up here? And there. And here. You're seeing the comet move the planet, which is why it's set like that. If I went further along the wall where this is, you'll get a story of these two where they've got feet on the ground, and then there'll be four people with feet on the ground instead of one with no feet on the ground. That's how they work. It's the same story over and over again, and it's hidden in their pictures. This is another one that indicates timing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 60. 60 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 48 minutes. The timing for the event. These here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are representative of another time, another timing. I'll show you where it is. It's actually the time that the first comet lands. I don't know what this time is. I don't know if this is 40 minutes. Okay, each one of those is 40 minutes. The reason I want to show you that, because you see that 6 a lot. And it's mostly, I'll show you on the Saxohuman walls or Saxohuman walls I should say, in Peru. I won't be sec. Now this is an aerial view I've got at the Saxohuman walls in Peru. This is where I believe it is depicted. The first one is on the ground where it's already got that circle and line. The first one that's on the ground is this one in the middle, which is the smaller of all three comets. This is the one that was cut off as a warning, as were these two cut into half as a warning. So it went from 1 to 2 to 3. This third one here is cut. If I move along this way, it is shown at the wall to be interfered with here. That is not a natural thing. It's a pyramid structure with a triangular bit near it, and it is 2 and tracked as 2 until this point, and then it is 3. Okay, they cross over in the sky here. So the little one is on the right if you were looking, on the left if you were looking at them in the sky. They switch over and then you end up with the smaller one in the middle, which is why these walls are like this. They're not knocked over or damaged. It was actually because the comets crossed over in the sky. That's what happened. But what I wanted to note here is this is where this 6 is coming from. From the point of this comet hitting, which is a little one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like I said, that's the one in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's probably one in here as well, 6. I don't know why that's like that, or maybe this is starting from the same place here, you know. So we're probably supposed to count this one as well, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what it is. But that's where that 6 count's coming from. And I don't know if that's 40 minutes or whatever. But obviously these walls are tracking comets. You're going to sit here building a wall when you're about to die, are you? This is another timing section for your comets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times 4, 48. Then there will be those that say, where did the animals go? How did they not die? Etc, etc, etc. Here is the answer. You also see this on YouTube. It's getting lifted up. That's getting lifted up there. This animal's getting lifted up, so is that one. All of the animals are getting lifted up on that chart. I'll zoom out so you can see exactly what that is. Really quite an amazing thing. But that's what you're seeing there. You're seeing all the animals being picked up by the UFO. That's what happens, what I said to you. They lift off what they want to keep. They smash what they don't. And that's why at Göbekli Tepe you'll see a couple of those pillars that will have life forms that are no longer on the planet. They're extinct because they didn't put them back. The dodo, I think, is one of them. Here's another one. Count those, equals 14. Count those, total 48. 48 minutes for the sequence. I'm beginning to think a lot of this is actually, I know the Sumerians and the text within the Sumerians text, they knew a lot about the planet. I often wonder whether or not we're seeing just totally generated history here, that whether or not it's actually real. It could be created by the very people just to tell us of an existing people that lived here, not since, but before the catastrophe. Time of things is irrelevant really, because the amount of stuff that got chucked left, right and centre all over the place in respect to, Earth movement, the catastrophic events and movement of the actual land masses. But not only that, but the tidal waves brought, as huge as they went across the top of our biggest mountains, these things. Really is an amazing thing that would appear to be what's happened. They have selected who came back and they will do this again. I don't know that they're planning to eradicate the planet at this point. I think that coincides with Nibiru's entry. This is another one where we have 3 stones together with these key cuts in them. They're just representing the whole 3 of these comets, a little one in the middle or a little one and the 2 big ones, were originally all one. That's all it does. It's telling us the comets were all originally from the same place. It's all really quite easy to test because all you need to do is go and take some samples of the one that is in the middle of Australia and one at the bottom of the ocean above Australia. They're all clearly visible on Google Earth. This is another image of, that's probably Brian Foster's hand there, sorry Brian, I just wanted to point out these dots down the side here. Those dots down the side there are timing devices, just as they are in the Saxahuman walls. You've got to move back out on that image. If I move back out on that image, you'll see that that's what it looks like here. You can see, I'm sorry Brian, I'll put you in there. If I move back out on that image, you'll see that, and that is depiction of the comet. Right, so this is timing how long the comet takes to come in. And like I said, I'm under the belief you're not going to sit here building a Saxahuman wall whilst the comet is going to come and kill you. I've got a theory there. I won't put it in this video because this is probably a bit much to take as it is. We've covered a fair bit. I could go on all day with these things, honestly. There are very, very, very huge amounts of, well, you might look upon them as what are called archaeological discoveries in respect artifacts, where in actual fact the artifacts are, they're nothing to do with it. 3,000 years ago, they're to do with the people left in here. The advanced civilization is not an advanced civilization. I believe what we are seeing, when we are seeing these though, they are being left by people that are producing these artifacts at, say, many thousands of years before the actual civilization has even begun in some instances, right? So in other words, you'll find Egyptian hieroglyphics at Gosford that were put there 12,000 years ago, 3,000 or 4,000 years or more before the Egyptian culture had even begun, okay? Or that we're looking at possibly the Egyptian culture actually having never existed before after the event, but only ever before it, and this history being built by the people that built the pyramids, right? Because that actually makes sense. I look at the megaliths around the world, and what we're seeing is varying methods. They still tell the same story, but they're varying methods of the manner in which they are manufactured and put on the planet's surface, in my opinion, is depicting the level of expertise of the people on the planet at that point in time. Whereas in Australia we'll see the megalithic site at Carryong indicated as bush rock, which means the Aboriginal people that were on the planet 12,000 years ago were not an advanced race. They lived very much the way they lived when white man got here a couple of hundred years ago and decided to reduce their population. This is what we're seeing here, I believe. I think we're actually seeing not necessarily creations of the people there, but just purely and simply megaliths that have been left around the world to give us an indication as to why the people are advanced, or leaving us an indication by the megaliths at what level of technology they had based on the megalith itself. So in other words, if you're seeing this sort of stuff here, that there was a very, very advanced race at one point in time in South America, which is why these megaliths are really, really good quality, as there was in Peru at Sacsayhuaman as well. They are indications of the level of skill of the people that lived on the land at the time, and the history they have done to you as our leaders what you do to us as individuals, and you hide our history. I believe they did the same to you. This is another site in, I believe in Tiwanaku. I could be wrong though, it is out of one of Brian Foster's videos, so once again Brian, but what this is exactly that. This is showing the tilt of the globe. So in other words, each comet impact, just as it does in the Sacsayhuaman walls, as to where what happened with the axis with the comets hitting it. Okay, I will show you where that very same thing is represented in the Sacsayhuaman walls, and then we'll finish off with that. Okay. Now we are back at the Sacsayhuaman walls. I have had to go back into my other computer because, like I said, that other version doesn't work, and this is exactly what you're seeing here. These walls here, as we've already gone through, are exactly that. It is depicting where the comets hit and how the axis of the Earth was moved with each of the comet hits. That's exactly what these walls are doing here, which is why you see this jolt out and then a jolt back. Right, when this comet hits, it jolts it back this way. That's what you're seeing here. You're seeing this jolt this way and that jolt this way, and that's exactly what's happening. It's recording the movement of the axis of the Earth during the process. Well, that brings us to the end of the video now. I just want to have a quick chat about what we sort of discussed in some of the things we've seen today. I would think it would be without doubt that the message is loud and clear, over and over and over, in multiple formats, in multiple levels of technology, and if you stop and consider the billions of rocks on the east coast of Australia here, we've got a lot of messages left, which would only lend, without doubt, my summation of the strikes off the rock in the first place was that you don't need to leave as big a message, nor do you need to leave as many messages if you're coming back, which is what I'm saying to you. We're on our own this time. There's going to be a clean-up job now, and I would expect within the next couple of days, and another clean-up job probably before that event, probably 50, halfway through, a couple of thousand years out or whatever. This is also going to be the last video I do for a bit, because I really do want to concentrate on that book, so I'm going to stop making videos for this point and sit down and start writing, a couple of thousand years out or whatever. I would suspect that, like I said, I found looking into all this really quite interesting and absorbing. There was, like I said, a history lesson I received at from the other side of the fence, so to speak, In fact, I think it came from their filthy side of the fence. But there's probably a couple of good blokes in there as well that do understand that actually what I'm trying to do is the right thing by humanity here, not myself. I'm not looking for profit. I do want to write a book and do that, and I've got to make a living like everybody else. But as far as the book, it will be written. And like I said to you, Mr. Morrison, if you're one of the ones that want to hide that behaviour, mankind, get out of the bloody seat, because you're going to be out of the seat either way. It's going to happen. You may as well just give the reins to somebody. And for any of those leaders that fear death, don't. Because as soon as you step from beyond that fear and start moving forward in the right direction, then they will help. They will help you. And what seems like an impossible task, it won't be. Seriously, look at me. 4 months ago, I hadn't even looked at the pyramid to understand what it was about. I thought it was making hydrogen. And for the sake of a little rock and a bit of bravery, we've come a long way. So get your backsides off your seat and move your backsides in the right direction, and you will get help. But if you are a man that sits in a seat of leadership in this country and you are protective of the most putrid behaviour of mankind, get out of the bloody seat and get somebody else in there. That's all I'm going to say today. I'll finish up. Thanks very much. It's Brian Whitman and ET Art. And like I said, I try not to get political, but it is extremely difficult not to when in actual fact got so much information to give to people that have their ears closed, eyes shut, and nothing between here. I'll see you later. Have a nice day. It's Brian Whitton and ET Art. Take it easy. Bye.